Welcome back, Shaman King fans, to another episode of What's the Difference? The Shaman King Edition, where we compare the various different media adapted from one given source material. And in this case, the source material is the Shaman King manga, and its adapted media is the 2001 Shaman King anime, as well as the 2021 Shaman King anime. Up until now, there are only so many comparisons we could really make because the original anime has deviated so far off from the source manga. But there are still elements to talk about that relate to both. Specifically in this case, where Ren has received a fatal blow. And whereas in the manga and newer anime, that fatal blow came from the fact that the brother of the patch officiant that Ren had killed showed up as kind of a way of distracting Ren, which builds upon Ren's story for the most part for the manga. In the original anime, Ren ended up taking the hit by protecting his friend, which is still a very prevalent thing, Ren protecting a friend from a fatal blow. But the thing about it is, Ren had already been doing that a lot for the most part in the original anime. Ren's ledger isn't as red in the original anime as it is in the manga and newer anime. So Ren protecting a friend and it seeming to be a prevalent thing feels a little bit contrived, but in both situations Ren needs to be saved. However, whereas in the original anime Faust is already there to help out, and more of Yo's friends are there to try to protect Ren, in the manga and newer anime, the only people there to protect Ren are Horohoro and Chocolove, who are outmatched by the forces of How. Let's jump in and see what happens next, shall we? Now, for the newer anime, Horohoro and Chocolove try to stand their ground, with only one member of How's minions stepping forward to take them on. It's kind of revenge for Ren breaking his nose. Also, this is Volume 17, Chapter 152, Secret Mana Value, Episode 60 of the original anime, Friend, and Episode 28 of the newer anime, Yo's Decision. As Horohoro and Chocolove find themselves completely able to overcome the forces in front of them, with them desperately trying to get Ren some help. And I love the camaraderie we see for both Horohoro and Chocolove. They're in a desperate situation with no real way of winning, but they do their best at every turn. But then you get into the discussion about Furyoku levels, and you hear about something that wasn't really brought up in the manga and original anime, as well as the newer anime until more recently. And it's mostly revealed why. It's more of a secret to the patch, because knowing each other's Furyoku level, it can be a little bit disparaging. And the thing about How's Furyoku level that we had already learned how big it is, it's the fact that we weren't really told what everybody else's Furyoku level really is. It's just known that it's immense. Now, the newer anime does cut out some of the discussion here from some of the minions of How. But in terms of the discussion here, it's not actually a bad thing, because it all arrives at the same amount of notoriety. And that's that when it comes to the mana of Chocolove and Horohoro, they only reach 2,000, and I think that's about for each of them. And of course this shocks them, this disparages them, it makes them feel weak and incapable, and they pretty much lose the will to fight. That's right up until Yo shows up, or though it looks to them like How. And I gotta say, I love the way the manga depicts it, with Yo slash How silhouette showing up right behind the big guy, threatening to kill them should they touch his friend. And whereas in the newer anime, Yo just goes right into the attack. He doesn't waste any more time on words. But in the manga, he says, just be glad Ren's not dead. And then he goes in for the attack. And in all versions, he instantly forms the Spirit of Sword transformation and utterly decimate all three of How's followers, like with quickness. There's no hesitation. Yo just does it. And it's pretty awesome. And that ends volume 17 of the manga. And then we get into chapter 153 of volume 18, The Old Ren Is Gone. And Nikrom is just completely blown away that Yo was able to take them all down. And Yo, while Horo does apologize that they weren't able to protect each other, Yo is just glad that the reasoning behind what happened to Ren came because he was taken off guard by Crumb's brother. He felt bad because of the person that he had killed. It shows that Ren had a heart deep down because he had remorse, something that never really was something that resonated within him. And Yo tries to get that along to Nikrom, but Nikrom is just angry about the plan kind of falling apart. And Nikrom is very obviously mixed up for a whole number of reasons. But I love how Yo just intimidates Nikrom. And when it comes to the rest of Hao's followers, they're not ready to take on any of this. They know they don't have enough power to take on Yo, let alone the rest of Yo's team. And I love how Ryu and Faust just are there, lurking in the shadows, ready to act at a moment's notice. One thing I will say in terms of honestly both anime series is that they always make Ryu just a little too bulky for my taste. I love the slimmer look that he has in the earlier days of the manga, because even when it comes to the manga, Ryu bulks out a lot towards the end of the manga. But I love how Ryu and Faust are ready to throw down, and Nikrom swears to kill whoever he wants and that his brother was just soft. Although they do cut out the point of Nikrom saying he can't sacrifice Hao's minions without his permission, showing that Hao's minions have basically just become tools for the patch, as well as Hao, almost like the patch are extensions of Hao's being. Meanwhile, Basson is just devastated by what happened to Ren, and as everybody, well, specifically Chocolove and Horo want Faust to help out, it's not looking good, which you could tell from a glance, honestly. The damage that Ren suffered here is just too extensive. Like, Ren is actually just dead. He is a corpse right now. And I love the bitterness within Faust's eyes as he just sad that he couldn't save a friend from death yet again. And Horo kind of loses it, but Yo says that Ren still lingers to his body. He's not completely gone, and if they can heal him enough, he might be able to survive. And that's something that was actually brought to my attention, that it's never made clear how Jean is actually able to resurrect someone. Is it just that her healing powers are just so great that she's able to do this? And how did Yo know that she was able to heal someone else to this extent? Yes, he saw her heal herself, but to be able to heal someone else, it's hard to say. Maybe it'll become clearer later down the line, as there are certain points of the manga that I'm not as familiar with. Now we're in chapter 154, Who the Heck, with Manta having been sent over to get Iron Maiden Jean. And it is something that was excluded from the newer anime, that Yo thinks that Jean's healing powers will be enough to save Ren. But in the manga, it's actually shown that he thought it was more of a long shot. If you look at the very last page of chapter 153, he says, with her healing powers, she might be able to save Ren. So even Yo wasn't completely sure this was going to actually work. Meanwhile, in the original anime, it's up to Ryu, Horo, and Chocolove to hold off the minions of Hao, as Faust is actually already right there to try to heal Ren. And Ren's injuries are very ambiguous, so it's just kind of like, you should be able to take these guys down, but protecting your friends is seen as weak by Hao's minions, and that's why Ren is in his current condition, because he tried to protect his friends, and now everyone's in a desperate situation because of that. You have more of Manta traveling with Hao kind of involuntarily. And then you get a little bit of Hao's backstory where he tried to create a society of shamans previously, but he was kind of turned against by those he thought would join with him, as ultimately they didn't really share his ideals. And that's another kind of sad thing about the original anime, because there's actually just more depth to it than this, whereas Hao's backstory is made to be something where he was just seen as too powerful, creepy, and he could hear the voices of others, and that kind of influenced him to a certain degree. There was more to it than that in the manga and newer anime, which we'll get into eventually. And you see Anna waiting for the energizing of her 1080 beads, which will be imbued with the power of the monks who managed to defeat Hao previously. Although it's obvious he probably won't fall for the same technique again. But they're hoping that with the combined effort of Anna and Yo, something will be done. Meanwhile, Yo ends up encountering Team Flowers, who has been sent to hold him off, and they all go after him. And Yo's confrontation with them is kind of paralleled in something else that happens later on in the manga, so I'll leave it. Meanwhile, Hao and Manta and Opachao get closer to the Great Spirit, who sends out the shamanic birds or whatever, Furyoku birds. It's seen as a bit of a challenge, but Hao is up to the challenge. It's also interesting because Opachao recounts to Manta that, how his choice of direction in life comes from the fact that he was always feared because of his power. And so he wanted to create a world of people who had power kind of equal or similar to his, as a way of having a world where no one really feared him the way that he was feared in life, which ultimately isn't false to Hao's personality in the manga too, and his reasoning. It's an interesting thing. Meanwhile, Faust has managed to patch up Ren, but he's still in bad shape, and Faust starts to feel the pressure of the situation, and you get a nice sweet moment between him and Eliza. And because he doesn't have any equipment to help out, he needs Furyoku, transplanted into him. I don't know if that's how Furyoku would actually work though, but unfortunately everybody ends up in an even more desperate situation. But instead of Yo coming in to protect everyone, this is the time for Lyserg to shine, in a pretty cool entrance. Meanwhile, you get the battle between Zinc and Necron versus Calum and Silva. And it's a nice little moment between Calum and Silva, where you get to really see their friendship and how much they care about each other. I love that they both have totem pole cannons. And this ends up being the only opportunity for Lyserg to really, help out everyone. So it's interesting. In one version, it's Iron Man and Jean who's the one who has to come to everyone's rescue. But here, it's Lyserg. And because of Lyserg's new power, he's able to stand up to basically all of Hao's minions. Although I don't hate the idea of all of the angels of the X-Laws coming together in one massively powerful form. Meanwhile, in the manga and newer anime, you had the fight that was supposed to happen between Miki Asakura and Team Mariachi, but whereas it looks like they retreated, the one thing that is left out of the newer anime from the manga is the other team saying that, they hope that Miki Hisa's team withdrew because they're scared of them. Because, at least it makes them seem powerful, considering at some point they'll have to face Hao. Whereas Calum notes that this might be the work of Hao, why Miki Hisa's team hasn't shown up. So Caleb knows that something's wrong here, but Godiva is like, well, this might be the true essence of the shaman fight. This might be the real start of the shaman fight. Basically, the great culling. Meanwhile, it's girls versus girls in a savage showdown. And you gotta love how Anna is just ready to throw down at a moment's notice. But honestly, most of the girls here are kind of savages and kind of wants to know who the heck Anna is as she brings forward her guardian ghost Ashcroft. And Team Flower's first real appearance and throwdown in the original anime happens in episode 39, Flower Team, and at every turn they pretty much badmouth whoever they can whenever they can. It's interesting because in the original manga and newer anime, Anna sends June to basically go and deal with the girls, but here it's more, and by here I mean the original anime, whereas Team Flower's presence is more of a test for Yo. In the original, it was more of, oh, we're just going around harvesting souls. And while Team Flowers is honestly disposable in every version, seen as disposable for How, it feels like they're given a little bit more importance in the manga and newer anime, and not just as a way of testing Yo and making him realize how weak he is deep down. And so whereas the fight with Ashcroft initially takes place in the original anime, it's Yo versus Ashcroft, and whereas it looks like Pyron had the advantage, he got a little sloppy. Meanwhile, in the original anime, it's Ryu who actually manages to seemingly do some damage to Ashcroft, but in every version he just comes back together. Although in the original anime, it's not stated that the reason why Ashcroft is able to come back together so easily is because the medium isn't the armor necessarily. That's the big difference. As in the original anime, the medium is actually kind of smoke, but they don't really show that in the original anime because, well, they wanted to exclude the smoking. Although I love the kind of cat fight you really get to see on display in the manga and newer anime. And something you don't see in the original anime either is the personality of Ashcroft. It really is on display in the manga and newer anime. But in the original anime, he's honestly nothing more than a sentinel. We've entered into chapter 155, My Terms, and it becomes a clash of warrior ideals, the chivalry of a knight or the chivalry of a martial artist. It's actually pretty cool. Although this isn't the best moment for Pyron, but him going in to destroy the suit of armor as a medium, I mean, it makes sense why he would think that would be the case. And Ashcroft doesn't think that he'll be able to punch through iron. But yeah, Pyron punches through it easily. And we learn that when he was torn apart before by June's dad, they added some upgrades and have given him almost kind of like a machine gun punch. But that never happened in the original anime, so he was never given this kind of upgrade. And it's kind of a way of June being involved in his fight, as Pyron fights whereas June activates the mechanism, which Pyron isn't really too happy about, honestly. And then we get this flirty moment between June and Pyron, and whereas Tamals finds it cute, and it's just like he has a wife and kids, so it's not that cute. And Anna immediately knows that the medium isn't the armor. There's something more coming. Meanwhile, in the manga and newer anime, Manta is questioning Jean actually helping out. They don't really seem to be the people who'd want to help out Yo, all things considered. But what Manta really wants to know is what is Iron Maiden Jean's terms for helping Yo out. Ultimately, they are the enemies of both Yo and Ren, and Jean admits they are enemies, and Ren will receive a boost in power by his resurrection, the same way Hao has. That's why he has so much power, because of his reincarnation. This is a point that never really came up in the original anime. It's not that it never came up, it's that it rarely came up. It rarely became as much of a plot point in the original anime as it was in the manga. The whole reason why Jean is in the Iron Maiden, that her near-death state increases so much of her power. And Ren will earn at least 50,000 mana points just by his resurrection. However, since they know what Yo is now, their terms are simple. Yo will withdraw from the Shaman fight, and then we enter into chapter 156, which has a nice little Halloween cover page theme, very fitting for if you're watching this when I put up the recording. We're getting very close to Halloween by this point, although Shaman King is a very Halloween-esque series. But it's chapter 156, Sorry. But Chocolove isn't really happy with Yo going to them for help, the X-Laws specifically, because it'll ultimately screw him over in the end. But Yo feels like he has no choice. It's a more tense and desperate situation than in the original anime. I also love this little moment of both Ryu and Faust completely going along with whatever Yo chooses, knowing that ultimately it is the right choice and it is the compassionate choice. Meanwhile, Chocolove can't understand their reasoning because they give up everything that they've been fighting for, and Horo has no choice but to just kind of accept it, because if without this, their dreams die. And to a certain degree as well, a very intense and powerful rival is taken out of the mix as well. Horo doesn't want to see things this way, but it's his way of doing things, survival of the fittest. If an impossible obstacle can be taken out of commission, might as well. And Bassan's a weeping mess over all of this, but because of this, Ren will come back even stronger, maybe even stronger than Yo, and thus the X-Laws have arrived. And Marco is all too ready to just throw it in Yo's face. And this moment between Yo and Lyserg is also interesting, because in the original anime, Lyserg finding out that Yo was Hao's brother, he was ready to treat him just as he would Hao. But in the manga and newer anime, it's portrayed as though Lyserg is still trying to understand the situation. And ultimately, the fact that Yo just went along with backing down from the shaman fight all for Ren with no strings attached, it ends up honestly endearing Yo to Lyserg even more than before, because it's just like, yeah, Yo is nothing like Hao. Like, Lyserg realizes this very immediately, that Yo is nothing like Hao. In no way, shape, or form. Because to sacrifice for a friend, Hao would never do that. And that conflicting feeling within Lyserg is more visual in the newer anime, but in the manga, whereas Ryu wants to say something to Lyserg, Faust tells him no. It's obvious that Lyserg has conflicting feelings, allow him to make his own choice, which is something that has been Yo's want ever since Lyserg left them. And there's this interesting moment between Marco and Yo that I always loved. It's one of the moments that I really remember from the manga, of Marco just kind of throwing everything that Yo is doing in his face, saying that he is no king, he was never worthy to be a king, because a king should not sacrifice himself for others. Others sacrifice themselves for their king. In that shot, you never had what it takes to be Shaman King. And it's like he was trying to get a rise out of Yo, to see Yo as just as bad as Hao. But Yo is true to form. Hey, yeah, okay, what are your terms? Ren's life is on the line. Let's do it. But Yo is a little shaken, because this means the things a lot of people were doing for her. And it's funny too, because in the manga, he names off everyone he knows. He apologizes to Grandpa, Grandma, Mom, Dad, Tamao, Pinchy and Kochi, Manta, Amidamaru, Mosuke, Ryu, Tokagero, Ren, Basson, Manta Amidamaru. A few characters who aren't even pictured in the anime, like Jun, Pyron, Silva, Horohoro, Kororo, Parika, Faust, Eliza, the Bulls, Lily Raira, Lyserg, Morphine, Joko, or Chocolove, and Mink. Because a lot of people kind of believed in him up until this point. He thanks them and apologizes, and you get that great shot of the Oracle Bell falling to the ground. It's a great shot in every version except the original anime, because you don't get this moment in the original anime. But his apology to Anna, that's the one that hits the hardest, and that's the most significant. Yeah, this is a big moment for Yo in the manga and newer anime, because it's him sacrificing it all for a friend. And while the importance of friendship is extremely prominent in the original anime, this is it really coming to the forefront in terms of the manga and newer anime. Because, like it's been said by some people before, the friendship between Yo and everybody else he knows, it was kind of superficial and not really expounded upon too much in the manga. But the reasoning behind that is exactly what you're seeing. There's a reason why Faust and Ryu are willing to just ride or die with Yo, because Ryu was given a lot of purpose. He was one of the first shaman to really ally themselves with Yo, and Faust ended up getting Eliza back from Yo. But Ren still has his edge in the manga because he isn't that close of a friend to Yo, whereas the original anime makes him a lot closer. Same with Horo. Yes, Horo and Yo are friends in the manga, but Horo has issues, and they really come to the forefront with a lot of his inadequacies. That's not really so much present in the original anime. And even when it comes to Jokolove / Jocko, whatever you want to call him, he's the newest to the group, especially in terms of the manga, so there's a lot of things he doesn't quite understand, and that is present because he is so new to the group in the manga. Like, a lot of those points are present because they're important going forward. If it feels like our gang of friends are friends in the shallowest sense in the manga and newer anime, it's because they are. They're only really just starting to get to know each other, confide in each other, trust in each other. It's been all very superficial up until now, but this is the starting point where a lot of people's demons start to really come into the forefront, which is mostly why the revelation that Yo and How are brothers happened so kind of early on in the original anime, because that is the turning point of everyone becoming good friends in every version. So tell me your thoughts in the comments section below. Which did you feel the best about in terms of the effort to save Ren? Do you like the manga and newer anime's portrayal of Yo sacrificing his shot at being Shaman King? Or do you like more of everyone needing to come together, all of Yo's friends needing to come together to save Ren, and even having Lyserg show up to just help out his friends one more time? Let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section below. What was your favorite part about any of these various different adaptations? Was there anything I missed out on talking about? Definitely bring it to the forefront. And if you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell for notification. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.